you started this in a very early stage. When I was looking at the profile, one of the things that I highlight that you done CCNA, CCNP, CCI, and you written those exams, right? Or you certified at the age of 15 years. Just try to do what you actually love, spending time, rather than just sticky six looking at the clock and say, yeah, time khatam ho gaya, abhi mere ko jana hai. So aisa nahi hona chahiye. So that should not be the case.
A second guy then comes in and he tells me he is the CEO of the basketball machine. Well, open source for me, it's it spans from smallest of the things to biggest of the things.
Hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of TACOS, where we talk about community and open source with some of the smartest mind in the open source and the community ecosystems. So today our special guest is Kaivalya Shah, which is a highly accomplished cloud engineer with a passion for Kubernetes, GCP, AWS, HashiCorp, and so many trending DevOps technologies. With an impressive array of certification, including the multiple Kubernetes and Google Cloud, AWS, he has a deep expertise in the cloud technologies and track record of successfully managing complex cloud environments. So, as a Google Cloud Champion Innovator for hybrid multi-cloud, Cable has demonstrated an innovative approach and tackled so many challenges in the hybrid and the multi-cloud deployments. From the speaking at the major industry events like Google Cloud Next, AWS reInvent, from the organizing community days, workshop, he has done a lot of things. So let's get dive into the fascinating conversation about the cloud technologies, certifications, latest industry trends with none other than Kaivalya Shah. So welcome Kaivalya to TACOS. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, it was perfect. Thank you.
And since when two Gujarati met, the first thing they say, "Kem cho?"
મજામાં તમે કેમ છો?
I'm good. So the people who are listening, Kem Chon is nothing but how are you, right? When Gujus are met, so they generally treat like this, right? Feel free to add if I miss anything, because when I was going through from your profile, I was stumbled and I was amazed by the kind of technology that you worked with and the kind of certification also you did. I'm sure that must require a lot of efforts, time. So feel free to add if I miss anything, because you've done a lot of amazing stuff, man.
No, thanks a lot. I mean, it's a very flattering introduction, but yeah, I mean, you covered everything, so not much to add there. But I'm just looking forward to an interesting conversation and have some learnings to the community about my journey.
Awesome. So let's dive in. So I want to know, since you have extensive experience in a cloud engineer and the multiple, Kubernetes, GCP, AWS, and specifically you certified in almost all this, even HashiCorp and a lot of other trending DevOps technologies, right? So how do you approach to stay up to date with learning all this certification or the technologies? And what are the insights that that anyone should know before they try and go learn about this, right? So you can break down this in a two-way.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, once you decide that you want to go for some certification, my approach is very straightforward. There is usually this official pages uh, by the company, like for example Google Cloud or HashiCorp or AWS. They have an exam guide or a list of topics. So like first thing to do is just have a look at the list of topics. Um, and you can figure out mostly which of those topics you already know or you have hands-on experience with, and which of those you maybe not have that much experience with. So for the preparation, you can focus on the topics that you have not used already, or like practice tests in most of these official exams, which are like small 10 to 15 questions, but you get a pretty good idea of like the level of the exam there is. So that's a great um, thing to figure out if you are prepared for the certification or not. Just give that practice test for 10-15 questions, and if you think that okay, the questions are like very high level or something, like you didn't really couldn't understand like most of them, then you can give that a time some time, and focus on learning the technology itself, and then maybe later on go for the certification. But that's my usual approach, just relying on mostly the official documentation, and some community posts as well. In case of there are some new certifications, for example, there was the Kubernetes security specialty that was new in 2021, I think 2 years ago. So when there are like new certifications like this, there is not much clarity on exactly what there is. Then sometimes it's like a leap of faith. You can just try and give that exam if you have confidence, and maybe rely on some initial like beta testers. They have a lot of content that is published on blogs and LinkedIn. You can have a look at like experience from them. So yeah, that's how I approach like most certifications.
Okay. So let's say because certification, people think that, okay, I just wanted to hear from you. People think that most of them, specifically students who are, right now in their college or university, and nowadays they are very fascinated about the cloud, DevOps, AI, ML. They are very fascinated about these keywords. So getting the certification, they think that add the credibility, first point, which is correct. Second is that will let them to get your job. Which what do you think about this?
Yeah, first part is absolutely true because it does add credibility. And the part about getting the job is that um, uh, what I think is certifications will get you the interview. It will not get you the job. So it is then up to like your own experience and um, on and like detailed know-how. If you can solve the actual problems, that will get you the job. So you will definitely get the interview if you have certifications. It's like standing out from others in a way.
Right. Yes, depending on the profile, of course. So I think sum it up that skills is much more important, right? Rather than because it just give you, for example, if you have thousands of resumes or profile, with the certification, it will just stand out that hey, we should interview this one. So this is the reason I asked this question, because a lot of people are just running behind the certification and just not working on their actually developing their skills, which is most important. Yesterday only, I was talking to one of the Docker captain, Harsh, and he mentioned his one of a very good experience about when he went to his job, right, and he learned about AWS and cloud, right, and he get also certified into the systems. But then if he when because of that he landed up in the good job, but the recruiter assumes they have not asked a lot of questions on the Kubernetes, right? But
Mhm.
they assume that the person also knows the Kubernetes. But the actual case was he wasn't. But while when he started working, he got the one of the migration issue wedge from monolithic to microservice. They have to migrate, and for that, of course, that required a Kubernetes. So he told his experience that was so funny that he was actually didn't know about Kubernetes because he just know about the platforms AWS, GCP, or Azure, any of them. But then he told at that moment of time, I realized how much it's very important to upskill yourself. And but instead of just stop at that time, he just talked to his manager or a boss, and then he started grabbing of that, referring the resources, and he cracked it anyhow.
Mm.
The reason I'm mentioning that not so many people able to crack because they do certifications and this lot of stuffs with a lot of proxy. You might get those kind of information as well, because I tend to get lot of messages that hey, since you are into cloud, can you help someone into exams, and you might got those kind of messages
Yeah.
so many times. The recruiter has always been flooded with that. So that is the purpose, I'm popping up this question that people go just certifications to just to show the credibility to get the job, but ultimately if you don't have a skill, that doesn't going to be less. Even if you hire someone to get your job done, which people does that now, a company that is actually does that, right? You There is a profession, you just do that work and you will get paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what do you want to say on that?
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely correct, and also yeah, I mean from your friend's experience, it's it was positive, like that even that his manager was supporting him in that learning. That's very important also, because when your like company is not having the attitude that oh, you don't know this, then that's very bad. But you should have the opportunity to like learn new things as well. So yeah, I mean that's correct. Yeah.
I think because one of the reason is that he know about, so ultimately he has given efforts to learn about these platforms. He know in and out about it. The only thing he was not about the one thing, but he was very clear what to do next. That is the most important part, right? So that's one of the most important part. And one thing, when I was going to a profile, I've seen that you also work, you are also Google Cloud Champion, and you done some multi-cloud innovations or some projects. Could you please share more information about that? Because that sounds, because a lot of people who want to hear about the project that you already worked on.
Yeah. So it's specifically on the innovator side. So it is like a program which Google Cloud runs. It's similar to the GDE, if you have heard of
Yes,
Google
yes,
Developer Experts. So this one is Champion Innovator is like a nomination based program where if a Googler can recognize you as a expert or like a thought leader sort of person to make some content and um, share knowledge for Google Cloud. So yeah, that category is one of those for Kubernetes, because the hybrid multi-cloud is usual use case for Kubernetes as well. Uh, so on actually on the project side, I worked on like some interesting hybrid cloud scenarios. Like there is a very common like the company has a data center and they have some clusters running as well on the on-prem, and there is also clusters running on the cloud, maybe Azure, Google Cloud. So they need some common layer of manageability or like observability between those. So there are lots of solutions. Like Anthos is one of them for multi-cluster management, and Kubernetes was one company which I was working at, which is also a solution for this manageability for multi-cloud clusters. Uh, so yeah, that's the sort of projects I worked. That would be usually like VMware on-prem and Google Cloud, but also in multi-cloud scenario, like having AWS and Google Cloud both at the same time. There there the reason might be like it could be cloud to cloud migration for a client, if one they're moving from like AWS to Google Cloud or vice versa. So for those use cases, we use this multi-cloud setup.
okay. So while working on these projects, did you find or face any issues, even with the by collaborating with the people who are actually managing these projects, or and if you face any problems, or or some sort of where you got stuck, so how did you also overcome it or solve it? Because when you successfully work on the project, that doesn't connect people, but behind what are the problems that you're facing, that actually help to connect people. So I think people are gonna love to hear about the problem that you were facing while you are working on this one.
Well, so yeah, absolutely. Every big project has problems, as you will know. Like I was talking about this AWS to GCP migration. Um, so the setup was basically that we were the ones that were setting up the GCP the environment from scratch, right? So we obviously have the entire access for GCP, and we own the all the infrastructure there because that's what we were hired for. But the existing AWS setup was already running in their company. And it happens that when the AWS admin team is not very happy to give access or to give permissions for doing some things, or maybe setting up like VPNs, or giving us like IAM access. So these are some common like human problems that we face in as consultants when you go into like an existing company, and people have some issues with giving access and stuff. But that's what you need to handle as a consultant. More than the technical problems, these sort of human problems are common, which you will like face and experience over time.
Would you like to share more about the human problems? Because I can definitely connect you there because I work as a consultant. And more than that, problems most about the company as that policies, right? Because of that policies,
Processes,
this
yeah.
process is stuck
Yeah.
so like hell. Because recently last week I was working with one of the Microsoft client where they wanted to have this Azure infrastructure, and we supposed to deploy one application which is they specifically want to run in only India specific region. But to be very honest, to get this process done and get the everything is done to get an access, so that to deploy it from getting requests from the US region to India region, it's like it took us like almost 4 weeks.
Mhm.
Technically, it was what job was like 2 days, max to max, right?
Yeah.
But because of the process, right? So you need to be highly patient, right? Did you
Yeah.
like? Am I referring the correct kind of policies that you are also referring it? Because
Yes, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you're correct. And like very similarly, actually, there is a pharmaceutical customer industry that I was working with, and it's a kind of access policies and processes that are so stringent. Like, if even we want to test one line of change in the CI/CD or in the infrastructure, it is like a whole approval process which takes a couple of days, and then you find out, oh, wanted you want to change something else, because obviously we don't know the exact solution all the time. So we would want to like tweak like some properties, or some variables, but every change takes 2 days to execute, and that it really hinders the whole timeline as well for the project. But yeah, that's exactly what I've faced also.
but during this process, have you ever freaked out? I did initially couple of times, and I shouted
Yeah.
sometime. I said, "You want to do that? I really don't want to do that. Just leave it." So have ever happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, not on someone, but it's very frustrating, definitely, because you know that okay, it's a one line change. I mean, it's like what more do you want? How many approvals do you want for this? And yeah, it's very frustrating.
Totally, because now the people who are started getting learning about it, and they don't. The most important factor that we should have is the patience. Because otherwise, you cannot work in this field. Because we are running, we are not a developers, right? We are actually developers plus operations. So actually, we need to
Yeah.
work 24 by 7 as far as because we need to make sure the infrastructure is scalable. It should not get any downtime. We can have the best possible use cases and scenarios. that we can implement. For that, we need a constant learning, constant use cases to study, constant chat with the folks, constant get ourselves updated. But
Yeah.
what I've seen is like you started this in a very early stage. When I was looking at the profile, the one of the things that I highlight that you done CCNA, CCNP, CCI, and you written those exams, right? Or you certified at the age of 15 years. I have a two follow-up question to this. Like, first of all, are you like passionate enough from the very beginning of your life, right? And how does actually influence you to go into the cloud field, right? Because networking in DevOps is not necessary to required to have a knowledge of networking, but if you actually have a networking knowledge, it gives you tons of perks. So yes,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, I'm just interested in technology since basically I was born, and um, it's an influence from my father. He's also in IT field, so like he challenged me when I was 10. Basically, I was you know just messing around with like BIOS and like Windows things. And he challenged me that, okay, so you, instead of ruining the computer, just if you are up for this, then try this out. So CCNA was, it still is one of like technically solid certifications, which I think like everyone should be at least prepared for, if not like having the certification. But it immensely improves your understanding of everything. Even in the cloud, we usually don't deal with like physical networking or in a detail, but it gives you another level of understanding, which like majority of developers or engineers currently, they like unfortunately lack, because they are not exposed to the sort of networking in detail. So yeah, after that, why cloud is also, when I was basically in my second year of college, I was looking at what to do, and I explored everything basically out there, like ML and uh, software development, IT administration, and cloud. So I did a lot of courses, online MOOCs, to learn more about all the fields. And then I was basically just exploring and seeing what I would like to do. And what caught my attention basically was cloud, was that it is a combination for infrastructure, which I was already having some sort of insights for infrastructure, and programming, which is automation. Because um, in a typical IT administration, you will not do lot of scripting or automation in data center. So I wanted to combine both of these skills. And I thought at that time, cloud is all API based, so it was a
right.
perfect you know uh, combination of my skill and background. So in 2016, I just decided, okay, cloud is something I want to do. And luckily it all was booming from then. So yeah, I guess I was in the right place in the right time.
Yes, I think, and we would like to give a three cheers for your father, who, if he wouldn't challenge you, since he is from the similar field, right? So I think the kudos to your father and
Yeah.
to this. I'm sure you and your father must be having a lot of conversation regarding the infrastructures and the cloud and the lot of use cases, right? Instead of having the other gossips, you guys done that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Even today, uh, we discuss about, this. Okay, this the cloud is coming up, and yeah, I mean, he sometimes gives me information that I don't know as well. So uh, because I like to stay up to date with most cloud native, or this cloud things. But within India, say, he's more aware of what exactly is going on, like
Right.
from government viewpoint or private players like private data centers. So yeah, because we don't have even exposure to like data center companies, but even like hearing some news or information about those is it's a very insightful for me. Yeah, but yeah, we do discuss that a lot of times.
I'm actually thrilled, and I can just imagine how because in my family I don't have anyone because most of our doctors and mostly in the medical field, but I don't have any family who talk about tech. And those who are in tech, they are not in India. They all because when people want to do technology and something, people just go abroad. And
Yeah.
people are fast. I think people are crazy, specifically in Gujarat, when they think of abroad because every year and there
Hmm.
people just think about to go abroad, study over there, and work over there. I think nowadays technology is that much boom that you can study over here and you can earn the equivalent amount of money that you actually there, right? So you can live a
Yeah.
good, say good life over here. So
Yeah.
what do you want to say that when people think that going and abroad, and getting a job that makes a good career opportunity for them?
Well, yeah, actually, I think moving abroad thing is very subjective decision. Every person should like evaluate what they want to do. Basically, I've obviously had opportunities to go outside and work out of like Europe or UK, but but when I had these opportunities, like I simply evaluated about the quality of life, about financially, if I could get a better offer in India, then would it be a better life to stay in India or to stay outside? So, so it's a very subjective decision, and personally, I think, as you said, if you are able to earn decent in India, then I do think quality of life is better here. Personally, so that's why I'm staying here, and another thing is tourism. You can like go out for vacations and stuff, go out for events or roaming around, but it's not like a life which I see for myself. And other thing is, uh, it's like, I believe that next growth phase now in the next 10 years belongs in the India. So what growth US was US and Europe was looking in from 80s to 2000s. I think next 20-30 years it's the India's time. So it's better to be in a bullish cycle than a bearish cycle, I believe. So that's why I'm here, and yeah, that's my personal opinion.
I really admire people who just give a lot of credibility to India and not just running behind that. So yes, I constantly say this. India has a very bright future until 2030 and beyond for sure. But until 2030, very much focused because now everyone is wanted to have their operation because India is somewhere in central, very easy for them to operate in the complete APAC as per the connectivity medium or a lot of other
Yeah.
operations, staffing, manpower, lot of other sense. So people who are listening to this podcast, see, India has a very bright future. So try to get the best out of it. There are a lot of things that you can actually explore, right? So, Kevin, let's dive into each of the tech stack that you already worked on. So that people get know more about what actually learned, what are the practice that you've done. So let's start with the Kubernetes, which I think you including the administration, security, application development, cloud native associations. So what are the practical use cases and the project that you applied to scale your Kubernetes expertise, and what are the best practices that you were already applying to manage and secure the Kubernetes clusters or the environments?
Yeah, sure. So initially, I started doing actual your production projects around 2019, 2020. One of the first kind of projects was uh, basically the customer wants to use GKE or EKS, which is like a managed Kubernetes. That it does take out the headache for like maintaining the Kubernetes control plane. Um, but even today, when you provide a Kubernetes cluster to developers, they are not completely aware of how to use Kubernetes. So there, the kind of work I did was to basically provide the um, guidelines or how to use the cluster to developers, and maintaining namespaces, maintaining your Argo CD for deploying applications, um, creating hem charts as well, because developers would like to focus on their application and like uh, create a container or a Docker file, and then that's where it should end from the developer's point of view. Their responsibility, and taking that container image, uh, putting it in a deployment in a Helm chart, and packaging it with other applications or other microservices in from the team. So it's usually been you know those sort of things. Creating Helm charts, using public Helm charts for monitoring tools, or for other DNS tools, secrets tools, other tooling around applications. Basically that. And about Argo CD as well. It's usually installing and maintaining Argo CD on the cluster, then providing some guidelines as well with uh, again, like how to use that to developers, and just making sure nothing is going down, and uh, upgrading Argo CD, or creating apps, creating certain like more exploring more newer features, like app of apps, your multi-source apps. So those sort of things. And apart from that, that is the sort of the maintaining the clusters part. I usually had a sort of use case where they wanted to build a custom operator. Operator, just for the audience, if you are not aware, so in Kubernetes, operator it's like a custom um, it's a custom resource based way uh, to deploy applications. So for example, if you would not want to deploy your database Postgres on Kubernetes, there is you will see a kind in each manifest. So the kind is your resource type. It might be deployment, stateful set, or ingress service. So the way of operators is you can create your own custom resource. You can call it PostgreSQL. So once you set that up, you need to write a custom controller which will actually do the work that you will define. Building them some custom controllers I have built for HashiCorp Vault, RabbitMQ. When the what that does is it provides you with this new kind sort of kind. You can say kind vault secret, and it will automatically create the secret inside HashiCorp Vault using APIs, or create a kind for RabbitMQ, like a queue. Then it will create the actual queue inside RabbitMQ. So these are custom controllers that I have built sometimes for specific use cases. Um, there is to build this, you can go with a vanilla Golang approach. There's a lot of reference operators that you can use. I have personally used an operator SDK, um, which is a easier way to set up operators. If you know the logic of your controller, what you want to build, then you can use the operator SDK, and You can use it with Golang or Helm charts or Ansible as well. So I was personally having a comfort level with Ansible. So I actually created a Ansible based operators for Kubernetes. Uh, so yeah, that's maybe some sort of the work I've done with Kubernetes.
Right. Even I like Ansible a lot because uh, I think that's for the system configuration compared to Puppet and Chef. I would rather go to Ansible and spend most of my time over there. Could you also just explain in a very nutshell about the CCNP everyone knows, but CC and CCNP, CCIE, specifically CCIE, not so many people aware of it. So can you just mention, what certification and what it does?
Well, yeah. So these all are. It's basically Cisco networking based exams. They are practical exams, lab based. So they are not multiple choice questions, but actually you are given a lab simulator, which where you have to perform some tasks, and then the exam decides if you have successfully done that. It is similar to CKA, CKAD. These days, they are also lab based. So when you want to start off in the networking, CCNA is the base level. It's the associate level where you get the basic knowledge for routing, switching in general. Then for CCNP, it is a certification where you need to pass three exams separately. I am honestly not aware of latest standard, but when I gave it, there was three exams: routing, switching, and troubleshooting. So each exam will go deeper on routing specifically, or switching, or troubleshooting. So once you pass the three exams, that makes you CCNP. And then for CCIE, it's expert level, very in-depth exam where there are two parts. There is the one theoretical part and a lab exam, where you need to go physically to a lab in, say, Bangalore or Singapore. I'm not sure if there are new locations these days, but yeah, I'm sure Bangalore has multiple lab locations for CCIE. So there, to get CCIE, first you need to clear the written exam, which I did. So the written exam is theoretical. It does not have lab based questions in there. And then once you clear that, you can schedule your lab exam, which is a whole day of a physical lab where you need to go and perform the tasks as per the exam taker. There is the examiner who will stay with you, and they will ask you questions. They will give you tasks to perform, and based on that, they will decide if you have passed it or not. And it is still one of the most hardest certifications in the industry. It is it's very well respected in like networking domain, if you have CCIE. So yeah, personally, I was 15 when I created CCIE return, and obviously my plan was to complete that whole thing with the lab exam. But at the same time, I started there was the board exams, and 10th, 11th, 12th. So I mean, unfortunately, then I just lost touch with the networking, and I had to just stop it after passing a written exam.
Right, right. But I'm sure those all those insights are always been helpful when you started career over here. Wanted to ask, like, was the written test exam was a MCQ based, or like having you to explain or something, use cases or something like that?
For CCIE, it was MCQ based. Um, but in the CCNP and CCNA, those are completely lab based. They are not theoretical or MCQ based.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So since you mentioned about in your last that you experienced about when you were talking about Kubernetes, you talk about GKE as well, right?
Hmm.
So I wanted to ask, considering all the certification that you have done, right? So when you do this lot of certification, so does that help you to architect or providing the cloud solutions, or is the reverse area that you actually learn that and that actually help you? So this will also clear the people's mind to whether they should go certified first or just go and try to work on the skills first. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say in the initial uh, learning time when you are just starting out, it is like good to have like once some basic level certification as your target, so that you have like a goal that you want to achieve. uh, but once you are past that one certification, let's say you have proven yourself, or you have proven everyone that okay, that cloud. um, After that, when you go for more sort of certifications, it does not make more sense to have those in as a goal, but more as just as a side, as a just a
Project.
bonus, like
Understood.
yeah. So once you get working in your job, it's definitely more important to actually go deeper and learn more about all the things in cloud. Then the certifications become, like I said, like just like a side thing which you can just give at any time. Actually, since 2019, where when I gave most of my certifications, I what I did was, I was just scrolling on my phone, and I see, okay, there's this new certification. I just book it for next day, and that's it. And I just pass the certification. So for me now, it's basically like that. What I do, if I just want to go for some certification, I just book the exam, look at the exam guide, and just go for it next day or something. So that's what ideally you should also be targeting for. That it's just something that it's a formality, but you should be worthy of that. You should be eligible for that on your own. Even if you don't have the certification, your skills will matter more, and your knowledge will matter more in your work, or in your career as well. So yeah, I see them now as these bonus things.
100%, 100%. And he rightly said, okay, now as because since Kaivalya knows already spent a lot of time building and working with all these DevOps tools and technologies and the cloud as well. So now it's very easy for, because conceptualize is very clear. And all this exam actually is conceptualized based only, right? They give you scenario, and based on what scenario, what would you provide as a solution, right? That what you do. But the most hurdle part is, why I'm constantly recommend, because certification comes with a very good cost, because this all certifications start with the $100 or somewhere on above till you scale up your certification on the expert level or in the specialization, right? But what I did, and also I would like to also Kaivalya to share about how you did the certification, because of how I did. I focused on, as boosting my skills and then being part of the community or being part of such projects. I got sponsored those certification, which if even if I've not done that, not the good case, but if I got it, so that's the side hustle or the side project that you can always opt for. Or let's say you work on, as Kevin mentioned about your bonus story. I think that will also inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Said, uh, wo- once I passed some initial associate level, like one or two associate exams which I paid for like on my own. It might be just one exam that I paid on my own. That was AWS associate in like 2017. But after that, when you are working, there is usually like a reimbursement for certifications, so you don't pay out of your own pocket. And not only that, when I was working in there is partner companies, like Google Cloud partners, AWS partners. So they have certain incentives as well. When they have a certification count which increases, it is good for the company. So as an incentive to employees, they provide a bonus if you will pass some professional level certifications. To be honest, the bonus was more of an incentive for me. That it can vary anywhere from $200 to $1,000 as a bonus for each certification, on top of the reimbursement. So that was more of a motivation for me as compared to anything else. And Even personally, I have this competitive spirit that I want to finish more things. I want to complete more things. So it was an added bonus, which was like incentive. Uh, so, uh, but yeah, the bonus was, it's definitely uh, one of the main incentives, um, and it's in general, the competitive spirit as well.
Right, right. So the passion and enthusiasm always wins, and that exactly make you consistently, progress as well. So the people just in this one, the most important part, which I can say that um just try to do what you actually love spending time rather than just sticky six looking at the clock and say यार टाइम खत्म हो गया अभी मेरे को जाना है तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए so that should not be the case where you should not look at the time so if you are that sense I think you can ultimately anyhow you can done that the way Kaivalya has in terms of incentive or the side projects they have done that there are many ways if you've done some good project contribution they might sponsor you the only thing or if the company that you're working, just go them and ask that, hey, I think and think about how that particular certification help company. Tell them that if they're using any cloud technologies or the DevOps tools, tell them, hey, how about if I can spend more time on this and get the certification done? So you don't need to hire a separate resource for that. I can do that. Just sponsored with this certification, right? Well, I did all my certification like that. I have never spent a single penny to just certify myself because I don't see it as work, but yeah, when you credibly it, that it create more values because ultimately you get it by your credit or by your skills. So that's the best as and you have a one example in front of you. Another thing, you have delivered so many talks, right? In a various conferences, community, and the organizers. So what because when I go for conference or talks, meetup or workshop, there always I have some story or memory which I can carry it away or let's say something which didn't work and that keeps in your mind. So any story or any memorable thing that you'd like to share which happened in your conference, meetups or talks or anywhere.
Well, it's a very positive thing, one experience, and it's a very motivating sort of experience. So when I was working at Deloitte, Deloitte was sponsoring AWS reInvent, which happens every year. So we were working on a booth demo for Deloitte, and uh, in these conferences, there is an expo hall with all these booths, which with like demos and like talks going on, which are apart from the main sessions. These booths, they are usually, I mean, the places where all the people get swags. So I mean, I'm sure everyone is more interested in collecting the swags. Expo hall is where everyone is usually roaming around if they are not attending any sessions, or for general networking or catching up with companies, like what they are up to. So one sort of the demo we built for Deloitte was, basically it was a basketball machine, which you can buy at your home as well. So it's a simple basketball hoop, and you hoop you keep throwing the ball, and ball comes down. You keep throwing for 60 seconds, and you get some score. So the idea was basically that you can play that game, right, for 60 seconds, and you can have some score, but there is no record for that. Like um, there is no leaderboard, or sort of a competitive angle to that whole basketball thing. So we simply did was, we took the completely off the shelf machine. You can buy it on your own as well, basketball machine. We hook it up to AWS IoT, and from AWS IoT, we use Lambda and we use DynamoDB to score and to maintain your each player score and high score as well. So it's simply adding that competitive angle to that. Um, and we had three machines, at the expo hall. As you well, as you might know, like basketball is very popular in US. So a lot of people were like lining up. At some point, we had a line which was starting from our booth. It was a 10-minute line just to play our game. That was like a really humbling, like a motivating experience. And over the 3 days, like when we look at the statistics, more than 5,000 people played our game. Uh, so
Awesome, man.
uh, yeah, so that was one of the most um, positive experiences that I ever experienced. And it has nothing to do with like sort of technology or some talk that I
Right,
gave, but it's just
right.
that, like, 5,000 people came to play basketball, which we had set up.
Oh, that's really, and I've seen this kind of, because this actually uh this actually create a lot of impact, because now so many people now remember that incident, that they've attended a conference, and apart from all the 100 talks or the workshop or during these 3 days, they just remember this particular event, and they stick to mind who does that. So Deloitte is the company who does that. So that's going to
Yeah,
stick to their mind. So what was the name of this event, by the way?
reinvent.
AWS reInvent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, it was again, I attended the one, but that was in Miami. I was attended the one which was on Miami. So, and a
Okay.
lot of people came. There was a one, you know, uh, there was a person who was having this robot dog, and
Hmm.
was playing. So in this kind of conferences, and when I attended this All Things Open in Raleigh. So there also,
Mm.
IBM actually, IBM, no, AWS. Actually, they had this beer machine. So where people
Yeah.
come and they get beer, but there's zero alcohol machine, right? And
Okay.
they are giving them the free T-shirt who has the beer symbol, and they're actually using the serverless function AWS Lambda for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so you're gonna find a lot of interesting stuff. And that, so during this whole conference that was again for 3 days. Now
Mm.
that the only one thing that stick it in my mind.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
a very good way to impact and make your position a spot in people's mind, so they can remember and come again somehow any other ways. So yeah. So again, thanks for sharing that particular experience. So
Well,
my second,
w-
yes,
I'm sorry. Just one small
yeah, yeah.
thing I just wanted to add. Even during this whole incident, it's amusingly. I was at the booth. I was like, so organizing everything, like the people and everything, and some like a guy came and he was just chatting with me. So we were chatting. Okay, how did you do this? And I was explaining. Okay, we hooked it up to the AWS IoT and all that. And a second guy then comes in and he tells me, he is the CEO of the basketball machine. And that was like a shocking moment for me, that okay, I had no idea who he was.
But I think now he got the actual feedback from you how you guys are doing it. So
Yes.
I think if, without knowing that he's a CEO, that would put the best possible way you could actually explain him. If you would
Yeah.
know that he is the CEO of that basketball, I don't think might have, like, little hesitate, little bit
Yeah.
think you speak, right?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
didn't have anything in that mind, so you just speak very freely to him.
Honestly.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that was some, you say, innocence or very insightful or candid
Yeah.
conversation that you might had. And I'm sure you're
Yeah.
never gonna forget that.
Yeah.
Never.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that is the reason I said people just go attend meetups, talk to be folks, because you might know what the next person seated, besides you. He might
Yeah.
want some interesting stuff which you might don't know, because you're just not speaking with them. So just network, say hi to all the people to whom you met, ask them what they does, and also say what you are also doing it. So might there chances for you to work together, or maybe some opportunity, knocked out. So do that.
Yeah.
So let's my second last question for the day is like, with your broad experience and expertise, right? If you would like to advise anyone who want to go into cloud domain, right? So what is your advice?
Um, so in terms of advice, this is usually something I'm not like I can give like in general advice, but this is one thing that I've noticed nowadays, and I try to say that is if you have fundamental solid on um, infrastructure or scripting, then you can just learn any new tool or any new technology on top of that. These days, most of my work and most of DevOps work is on around Terraform. So I think the Terraform is still underrated skill among young developers or students. They are not really aware that how important Terraform is. So just having the uh, deep exposure to Terraform, not only just create one two resources, not like that, but you should dive deep into Terraform states, modules, what functions you can use, or public modules you can use. Most of the times, the Terraform registry has most of the modules you can imagine. You can think of something that you want to deploy, and it's a possibility that there's a module that exists for in the Terraform registry. So, and obviously someone has spent a lot of time creating that module. So you should definitely explore and use the public modules. And other thing, in terms of scripting, is still bash or shell scripting is also underrated, because in general commands, using um, grep, awk, or loops, variables, it will immensely save your time if you know exactly what you want to do on the bash script. So the bash scripting is also underrated in my opinion, and people should spend some more time learning that. Yeah. And the last thing I would say is now Golang is growing a lot, and I think Golang is going to now stay for very long time with us in cloud native and in general as well. So if you are not uh, familiar with Golang, then at least have some basics or fundamentals, and it will really help you in some future, or in some problem that you face. You might um, you might benefit from just understanding some basic Golang.
Right. So my question is, does if you, let's say, if you want to learn Golang, right, which is a system programming language, so does any person from the non-technical background or very fresher who doesn't have the concept of C, C++, or object oriented, so can they learn Golang?
Absolutely, actually, yeah, because Golang, if you look at it syntax wise, it is very similar to C. So C is usually the first language that we pick up as students, in maybe in school or in college. So absolutely, if we are able to pick up C, then yeah, Golang is absolutely something you can pick up. For a resource, actually, there is a website, Learn Golang, or something like similar to that called Explore Golang or something. It's an official Google website. It has a side by side view of concepts, and a live terminal which you can explore. That's a good introductory website for learning Golang.
Awesome. And two things you rightly said. Terraform is my one of my most favorite tool, because think about, within one single script you can create the environment, and the same way you can just destroy it, right? That
Yeah.
saves a lot of time. So again, yeah, absolutely right. Terraform is underrated, and more than that, you now, so from a very long time, people talked about Bash because I started my journey. When I learned Bash was the first tool, and it's still underrated, but it's one of the most powerful scripting language. You can use Bash in anywhere you can use it. And I did a lot of migrations by using Bash, automated
Yeah.
Bash. So Bash is something I would highly recommend. You already mentioned, I highly recommend. The only thing, I have a lot of, a soft corner for Bash, because that
Mhm.
is the reason I came into, because it Linux and the Bash is the best combination,
Hmm.
because that makes all your concept very clear. As you said, fundamentals should be clear. If you know Linux systems, and if you when you know about the systems, you know about the Bash, that will clear a lot of your fundamental questions, and you actually know how automation actually works. Because
Yeah.
nowadays there are people, you should do the automation using Bash only.
Hmm.
So very rightly pointed out. So yeah, love that. I was not talk Bash a lot because people then don't refer that. As you rightly said, it's very underrated. I love
Yeah.
it. I still love it. I love it. I love it. So people go just learn about Bash. It's going to be amazing. It is already the people who are you using worked on the traditional system, not in the Docker containerization platform right now, but on the traditional data one. That was the tool that you should must know, because that you can build a lot of infrastructures. You can manage migration, networking. You can also manage networks. You can create the
Yeah.
networks using the Bash, right? You can automate that. There at that time there was no tool present, and still using a tool not makes you that much fundamental clear if you're using that on the command line, because Bash is pure command line tool. So the command like sed, oak, awk, sed, these are the powerful commands, and you
Yeah.
should be very careful if you run on that infrastructures, because that might be master systems, but that will also make your task so much easy if you know the right way to use it, right? Okay, so my last question is, what is open source means to you? Tell me in your language, the way you look at it, the way you think.
Well, open source, for me, it's it spans from smallest of the things to biggest of the things. In in the world, you will see like Kubernetes and the CNCF projects, which are humongous in code. They have I don't know exactly, but thousands of lines of code. So managing that, and creating a project of that level, having it in open source, it makes your contributions even more significant, that you are uh, making or helping out something that is like bigger than one company, or it's bigger than your own team. So it's a sort of mission, or ulterior sort of uh, some objective. But it's not only the big projects, but even the smallest of scripts or modules or issues that you will see. Most of the times, when I face some issue or some error, when I see it on Stack Overflow, it's that it's a happy, like a good thing that at least, okay, someone else has faced this, and there might probably be some solution. But the real thing is when you see that problem you're facing in a GitHub issue, and the GitHub issue, there's someone, the maintainers or some contributors give you the solution, or they realize that, oh, actually this is the actual error that we need to solve, and that will lead to some pull request, and that will lead to the feature. That is actually more rewarding, and um, uh, yeah, just makes you like appreciate that whole open source system, um, in the whole. And like funnily, when I was working on one GCP project, we were using Windows VMs. So what I realized was, when you want to like RDP to a Windows VM on from Mac OS, it will take you 3-4 commands. You need to set the Windows password, then you need to start the tunnel, and then you need to start the remote desktop. I simply wrote a 4 line, bash script for my own, to do these 4 things, and I just published it on my GitHub, and just nothing. I just put a simple README that, okay, these are 4 lines that you can use, specifically if you want to use RDP on Mac OS with the Windows VM. And surprisingly, that repository has like 30 or 40 stars and forks as well now. So it's just funnily like a simple everyday tool that I built for myself. It has helped maybe 40-50 people,
Awesome.
uh, which is amazing to imagine. In If that was not existing, like GitHub or some open source thing like that, then okay, I would use my script for my own convenience, and that's it. That would be the end of it, end of that script. But now it's a thing that many people use.
That's really interesting. And as I said, no, you used it. Either you know and you're looking for the solution, you don't get it. And when you don't get it, you create your own solution. But when you get the solution, just share it. So that is the best way that people should also adopt, and that's the beauty of open source. So you mentioned the whole open source, the phenomenon or the principle by sharing this experience, because it's all about collaboration, all about sharing, and that ultimately reward the way people are using it, and nothing but the reward that so many people are now using it, the solution that you built, right? And might possible that people going to build a tool on the top of that, or maybe do something else, right? So that's the beauty of open source. So yeah, so thanks Keval. I had a great time conversation with you, and at last I asked two questions to all my guests. First is what open source means to you, and second, do you have any questions for me? Well, I asked a lot of questions to you. You have any question for me?
I haven't prepared anything. Honestly. So, why did you start this podcast, Tacos
So
with Mehul?
yeah, so the reason I started that, I'm very passionate about community and open source because I learned a lot of things. I think everything I learned from the community and open source only. So I started my journey as being part of the open source project. So, and when I traveled, I traveled to so many countries and conferences. I met a lot of folks, a lot of, and being part of a lot of leadership teams as well. So one thing I enjoyed a lot to talk about the use case and talk about how people are, initiating a project. And open source and community both runs depends on your organization structures and your principles, your goals. Based on that, you can tweak that. But while doing that, what is the experience about how you do that? So that's something is very interesting story that people generally don't know, and not everyone is very good to talk. Let's share. So my motto is to start a podcast where I invite the people and wanted to share their story with among them, whether their community experience or open source project experience, something that they can actually as a as a go as a takeaway. And I got to know that my good one of my good point is I can, if let's say if someone is not good at, let's say, very shy or hesitate to speak, I can make this kind of conversation to I can get the story out of them. So I can have those kind of corners. So I said it's the best way to convey the stories of the other community folks and also learn from them. So this is also where I can get to learn a lot of from my guests as well. So that is the ultimate motto, what I learned over these years to giving back to the community. And thinking about the name, so pops up in my mind, TACOS, where it's actually abbreviation of talk about community and open source. So yeah, so that's I said okay, I could not make coffee with Karan, but I can make tacos with Mehul. Or if we would done this offline, we could have goes and I can have some tacos.
Tacos, yeah.
And there was a story behind like why choose I tacos, because I went, I was in Canada and in Vancouver for attending a conference. I was there for 15 to 20 days for some company projects as well. So, and I'm a vegetarian, so company has assigned one person to take care of my food, because being a vegetarian is very hard to find, the food. So,
Yeah.
and there was a lady, and who is taking care of me like my mother. Like, she's taking care of everything. You do this, you do this, you do that. And she was helping me. She's found out I'm a vegetarian. She found out me to go at every food corner and asking me, this is your, you should eat, this is your, you eat. And he told me that you can also make your own roti. And I said, do you
Mm.
know roti? Actually in the US, it's called tacos, and people make
Yeah.
their own tacos. I said, wow, how? So, just grab that roti and just fill whatever the ingredient, whatever the, the salads or things that makes you comfortable. There was non-veg, veg, both options are there. So I mix it up, and I realized at that time, similarly, it's like an open source community only. In a way, you can mix up with a network with a lot of people, right? And
Mm.
this way you can ultimately get a very good taste and create something, which you wanted, and you have freedom to do that. So at that time I picked that one, but I didn't know that I would going to then one day I was sitting and I was looking for the name, but and it found. Then I was chatting with my same the lady. I was talking about one project, and then we was talking about the story. How are you? And I asked my mother to talk to her. She didn't even understand what saying, but yeah, just say hi, hello. And then then I thought, and when I was we were talking about tacos, so I just typed that word and think about, okay, like how I can make this work. I really want tacos to be there. Then talk about community and open source is there. So this is how I invented
Nice.
it, and people love that name. Every guest they said, man, I loved your podcast name. So
Awesome.
now, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the
But
story.
next time,
And
so next time we meet, we should have tacos as well.
100%. It's from my, like, we'll definitely go, maybe meet in some meetup or a conferences somewhere. We'll
Yeah.
definitely meet. Since now I'm staying in Gujarat, so I'm constantly attending. Next month I'll be there is a Docker Ahmedabad. They're planning for a workshop, so
Hmm.
I'll be conducting a workshop on Docker and Kubernetes. So hopefully we
Okay.
can meet you there. If you're also interested, let me know. I can just put in touch with the organizer, and we can both do that. I'll be happy
Okay.
to
Yeah.
go there.
Sure. I think, yeah, Docker Ahmedabad. Yeah, I'm in touch with them as well. So yeah, sure.
So they invited last, but they canceled the meetup because of the rain, heavy rainfall last week.
Oh,
But they
okay.
shifted to, in 5th of August. I'll
Hmm.
ask organizers if you are interested. Let me know. We can do joint workshop for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Sure.
See, here also collaboration does. See, this is the perk, meeting people, having the best awesome time. And thanks again, for giving the very quick time. We planned this very quick manner, and you eventually showed up, very spontaneously. So thank you for that. And I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed our whole conversation.
Yeah. I loved it. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Awesome. So thanks again, everyone who watched this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and share with all the amazing folks in your community and the people who are working on open source or cloud or DevOps domain. There's good insight that we have discussed. You're gonna lot more gain in the nearest podcast. We're gonna bring a lot of amazing folks. So just stay tuned, stay safe, and take care.